We are back and better than ever after a week-long hiatus. We have been gone for 6 days, but we are back.
I think he means gone from podcasting because we've been home.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We haven't seen these people for 6 days.
And you look good. You look real good.
You look great. It is the week leading up to Easter.
Is that why you're so excited?
Yeah, it's a great time.
Because, I was still trying to turn my phone off and, silence all my alarms.
I'm ready.
I was not ready.
I am totally ready. So I've got a question I'm going to be asking later on in our family meeting community group. But
Okay.
I want to ask you this right now. And if you're watching our recording here, I want you to put in the comments, what is your favorite Easter memory as a child? So I'll give mine.
Okay.
So we Easter was a big deal over at my grandma's house, and so we would go to Grandma Wise's house, and her name was Juanita. Don't get a lot of Juanitas these days, but we had a lot of great memories with her. We would go over there for Easter and have lunch, and she would hide eggs all around her yard, and we'd have an Easter egg hunt. And then we'd go home, and my parents would hide candy. It wasn't Easter eggs, it was candy all over the house. And we'd have a candy hunt at our house. So it was tons of sugar around Easter time.
Sounds awesome.
It really was.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of Easter memories. I do remember going to my grandma's for Easter lunch on Sundays. But we went to my grandma's house for lunch every Sunday.
Yeah, I went one time.
Yeah. With Josiah, right? You were
Yep.
you were coming as his friend. That was before we started liking each other, right?
No,
had to be.
I think we did like each other, but it was on the DL.
Oh, was it?
It was on the down low at that point. But yeah. So what did you do you just had lunch at Grandma's or what?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Did you guys do candy hunts or Easter egg hunts or anything?
I don't remember doing an Easter egg hunt. I'll have to ask my parents. I do not remember it. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. And then I do remember my parents hiding coins, like dimes and nickels, but that wasn't every year. Like one year they got creative and wanted to do that, and they hid it around our house. And I do remember that it was cold out because my brother went out into the snow to find a coin.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because there was a coin hidden in a car or something. I don't know. It's a really weird, vague memory.
Your Easter sounds lame. It was almost like your parents were like, oh crap, it's Easter. We don't have any candy. Get the penny jar.
Okay, my parents were not really concerned with traditions at all. They didn't care about checking boxes about Christmas or anything. It was if they wanted to do it, they were going to do it, but they weren't going to let anybody else pressure them into doing whatever it was. So
society.
Yeah. So they did their own thing, and we always had a great time. But
yep, you made 5 cents out of the deal.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite family memory? Hopefully it's better than this sad memory over here.
I have a million happy memories, but most of our happy memories took place on vacations. Our family vacations were phenomenal. But my parents spent a lot of time with us. We
2
played
weeks
a lot
a
of
year,
board
my
games.
childhood was great.
We had 4 weeks of vacation every year, which was more than most people.
That's true. Yeah.
And it was spectacular. My parents made it really special. But they played board games with us. We went on walks and bike rides and spent a lot of time together. I can just feel you making fun of me right now and making fun of my parents.
No.
I can feel it.
No, I think it's cool. You find 5 cents and it's Happy Easter.
We tell people all the time.
Of course, back when you were a kid, that probably could have bought you 2 bags of candy.
I'm not that old.
Oh.
Listen, we tell people all the time not to do what they do because other people tell them to, or other people shame them. And now you're shaming me, and you're shaming my parents.
I'm not.
You're going against everything that we stand for,
No.
and my finger is pointing in your
No,
face.
that's not true. I'm not going against everything we stand for. If it's lame, I'm going to call it out, right? I'm not saying do it just because somebody's telling you to do it, but don't do it just because it's lame. You're like, oh, Nobody else is hiding 5 cents around the house and making their kids find it.
You're lame.
I'm not arguing that fact. I'm a 43-year-old man.
I think it's fascinating the way this episode is starting and what we're talking about today.
Yeah. It's Easter. It brings out the best in us.
Are you ready to do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in an Easter spirit, so I think
You're driving me crazy.
You need to get in your Easter spirit. Gather round, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. It's Easter week, and we've got a special episode just for you.
On divorce.
I love how jovial you've been the last 2 weeks talking about divorce.
Yeah, it's been great.
Keep dreaming. Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas, and this is my wife, 5 Cent Lysandra.
Hello and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 183 of the Family Meeting Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to discuss one of the leading causes of divorce. Today is part 2 of a 3-part series of episodes on divorce. And today we're going to look at money issues. And of course, the goal is to better understand divorce and thereby prevent it from happening.
Well, and that's the point. We're not here to shame anybody who is in the middle of getting a divorce, has been divorced, you grew up in a divorced home. That's not the idea or the goal at all. What we're trying to do is give people just a challenge to strengthen their marriage. And whatever state you find your marriage in right now, to work at it, to strengthen it, and to raise the level, the view of it, of marriage. And we talked about that in part number 1 last time. You can go check that out now, wherever you get your podcasts. And just speaking about strengthening marriage, we are less than a month away from Heritage's marriage conference in Byram, Mississippi. We're looking forward to being with them.
Can't wait.
And I was thinking about it this week because just yesterday in our Facebook community group for Family Meeting, I just posted a question, and it was a picture of David Letterman, and it's got the 10 next to it because he used to do this top 10 thing all the time. And so I just posed a question that was top 10 things you don't want to hear from your spouse. And somebody put down this phrase, "We need to talk." Because when you hear "we need to talk," you know a serious discussion is happening. Whatever plans you had for the night are over, and you're in this conversation. And that is basically the title of what we're going to be talking about at the marriage conference is "We Need to Talk." And we're going to be focusing in on communication in different areas of our relationship. I think it'll be very helpful, very beneficial. And so if you can, we'd love for you to join us. And that is going to be April 19th and 20th at the marriage conference. Going to be speaking at their church on Sunday the 21st as well. So make your plans to join us. You can get all the registration info and everything else over at the Family Meeting page on Facebook.
Sounds great. Thanks, Thomas. Okay. We are going to eventually get into this topic of money issues in marriage. But before we do, we want to look at some more divorce statistics. And our goal is to understand it. You know, you hear a lot of things kind of thrown around and facts thrown around, and you wonder what's really true.
Facts on quotes.
Yeah, exactly. And who really knows? Well, we have found some statistics from the Forbes Advisor, and they have really shed some light on what's going on with marriage in our country. So here's some kind of interesting information for us. They say that when marriages end, usually some time has passed since the wedding. So it's not that these people are getting married and 6 months later they're like calling it quits. It says, in fact, the average length of a marriage prior to divorce is 8 years.
So obviously you have some that are shorter, you have some that are much longer than that.
Right,
But
exactly.
the average is 8.
The average is 8 years. And I do wonder how long our listeners have been married. It makes me wonder. how long everyone's been married.
Well, I know we have people who listen who aren't even married yet, and we've got couples that have been married for like 60 years. So it's we really span the whole thing.
Here's what's interesting though. Everybody says that the hardest year of marriage is year 7, which it makes me wonder if that's why average year of divorce is 8. Maybe they give up in 7 and it's final in 8.
That was not the hardest year for us.
No, it was not.
Year 1 was
year
hardest.
1.
A lot of transition for both of us.
Yeah. I mean, we were definitely committed to the marriage, and so we were not going to give up, but it would have been so easy. Man, did we have reasons to give up. A lot of reasons.
I gave you a lot of reasons.
Well, and I did too. But since we're talking about money today, this is a cool question that came up in this Forbes Advisor article. How long does divorce take and how much does it cost? Sometimes we think divorce is the easy way out.
Right, yeah.
That's what it feels like. I quit. I'm out of here. And you kind of want to walk out, slam the door, and feel like, oh, I'm done. Well, you're not done. Because let's talk about how long does divorce take and how much does it cost?
Well, and the thing is, too, like, if you're really struggling in a relationship and it becomes burdensome and it just becomes unhealthy, then really what you're thinking about is you're thinking about a way out. You're not really thinking about what are the consequences of getting out or once I'm out of this relationship. And so it is interesting to look and see exactly how long it takes. Mm-hmm. Because it's not a simple process. Divorces do take time. Mm-hmm. Contested divorces. Now, sometimes you have people who are just like, both of you are like, okay, we understand this is over and let's just separate. And they're able to work it out themselves,
and
basically.
they can agree on what's yours, what's mine.
Yeah, who gets what and all that.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's probably not the case.
Mm-hmm.
When you're breaking up, it's difficult. And so contested divorces usually take over a year to finalize. That
is a long time to be in transition, in limbo, in arguments, in disagreements. It's a really long time to have that that conflict, really.
Yeah. So whatever the circumstances you're choosing to end your marriage, just know it's not going to be an easy process here. If it's a simple divorce, it could be completed maybe in 3 months. Mm-hmm. But 3 months to over a year is what you're looking at. Mm-hmm. And there's typically a big cost associated with it. Here they're telling us that couples spend an average of $7,000 to dissolve their union. So that's an average. Mm-hmm. $7,000 is what it's going to cost you.
Yeah, it's going to cost.
By the time said and done.
Right. Divorce is going to cost you. It's going to cost you emotionally, physically, financially, mentally. It really does cost a lot.
Yeah, but just the dollars is $7,000, and then you add all the other stuff. And with the other stuff, it's not just you paying the price, right? It's friends pay the price, children pay the price, other people in your lives, family members pay the price. So it is a lot to think of it about. Mm-hmm. And we, typically when people are going through this, we just, like I said, we think of the way out, but we don't necessarily think about the total cost and the ramifications and the time and all of that.
Now, this next portion here, I never would have ever guessed this. This kind of blew my mind.
Like this is a price you may literally pay.
Yeah.
With your life here. So, divorcees are more likely to die earlier than married people.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting.
Is it because you don't have someone there to do the Heimlich?
I have no idea. I don't think so. I think part of it could be just the stress of ending the relationship. Like it's not an easy thing to do to end a relationship like this.
And when the divorce is final, it's not finished. Like you still have a lot of stress over that broken relationship. Like every time you pass the kids back and forth, every time, something comes up, a memory. I mean, I don't speak from experience, so forgive me, but I'm just saying like, I can only imagine that stress is brought up repeatedly, as things come up.
And our emotions do play a big part in our health. And so here you're going through this very emotionally difficult moment in time in your life. So divorce can have surprising and long-lasting consequences. And so one of those consequences is an increased risk of early death. And, when they talk about the numbers, it's almost, you basically double your chances of mortality. It's a rate of 1,363 per 100,000 for divorcees versus 779 per 100,000 for married couples. So you almost double your chances here. And it's typically men that have the highest risk in that situation. And so you're paying a price, not just relationally, not just emotionally, not just financially, but with your health as well.
Mm-hmm. This article says, interestingly enough, couples often disagree on what the final straw was that led to the end of their marriage. In fact, not a single couple reported the same deciding issue as the ultimate reason for the end of their marriage. And this was interesting. Over 70% of couples report not understanding the realities or stages of marriage. So that's really interesting. They don't even, obviously, like, conflict of some sort led to the end of the marriage. And they can't even agree on really what was the last straw.
What that was, yeah.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we can't even understand it ourselves. But also, you look at the two different perspectives. Yeah. Thomas and I always have a different perspective. We could have a fight, and then you could take me in a room, just me and you could interview me, and you could ask me to describe the fight, and I would describe it. You could take Thomas in a room and ask him to describe the fight, and he would describe it, and it wouldn't sound the same, even though neither of us would be lying. Because perspective is so different. And I think that even happens here when they're discussing what was the final straw, what was the last thing, and why you got divorced.
Yeah, and typically in these moments like this, when it's this tense of a situation and a disagreement, neither of you are really seeing things clearly. Mm-hmm. Emotions and everything else kind of clouds our judgment and all of that. So it doesn't surprise me that, it surprises me that none of the couples.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me that would be a high number that they can't agree on what it was. But the fact that not a single couple in their study, that fascinated, very surprised me. But,
and that 70% of the couples reported not understanding the realities of marriage. Like, when they got into their marriage, they didn't understand what it was all about. 70% of divorcees.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things. This is why Lysandra and I are such huge proponents of premarital counseling, of having somebody sit down with you and talk about your relationship, talk about marriage and what to expect and how to work through things when things get difficult. Because a lack of knowledge about what marriage entails is one of the leading contributing factors to divorce. In fact, 72% of couples reported they didn't fully understand the commitment involved in marriage before they tied the knot. And that's what we were hitting on last episode was, hey, the commitment. If the commitment isn't really there, then your chances of getting a divorce are extremely high, and it's one of the highest causes of divorce is just not having that commitment. And so going through the premarital counseling, and we've had people do this where they had planned to get married and all of this stuff, but as we're going through counseling, they just decided, you know what, this is not a commitment I can make to this person.
Right.
Like, this is not the person that I can be committed to.
Which is great. It's great that they figured that out.
Yeah, because otherwise you're married and you're having a difficult time, and the chance of you going through divorce and paying all the repercussions and everything else is very high. And so it's better to figure that stuff out ahead of time and decide, okay, is this a person I can really commit to or not? Mm-hmm. And here's an interesting note from the study. Many divorced people said they were surprised their partner changed over their marriage. and were unable to personally cope with new problems that arose over time. So they're literally shocked that their partner has changed.
Right.
It's like, we have been married for over 20 years. Neither of us are the same person we were 20 years ago,
Not
thankfully.
at all. I'd like to say we're both much better and have grown and matured.
But those changes did cause some conflict because I just assumed that Lysandra was the same person she was 20 years ago when we got married. You know, you did not want to make decisions. You did not really want to decide what we ate or where we went and those sorts of things. Well, that changed over time as you grew and matured as a person and became more confident and everything else, and blossomed into the amazing leader that you are. And you wanted to have a say and you had opinions about certain things. And I just assumed you were the same person you'd always been. And we had to work through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, along with many other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is funny to me that people would say, I can't believe how much they've changed. I didn't realize they were going to change. And my guess is they don't realize that they have also changed.
Yeah.
Most likely they're not self-aware.
There are some people that never change, though, and that's never a good thing.
I agree. That is not a good thing. Forbes Advisor also reported that money issues are among the top reasons for divorce. And so today we would like to make that the focus of our episode. And Thomas mentioned our premarital counseling. We really, really encourage all couples to take premarital counseling before they go into this big commitment.
And if you are married and you didn't have premarital counseling, then we encourage you to get it anyway.
Absolutely.
Like go through it and talk through some of the stuff. Yep. You know, what we're talking about, we announced the marriage conference that's coming up in Mississippi next month. And part of the stuff we're going to talk about is stuff we cover in premarital counseling, where you're learning how to communicate. And you're learning and talking about, in one of the sessions we talk about, is finances. Absolutely.
And one of our goals for the family meeting is to have our premarital counseling available for purchase, where you can watch the video and do the worksheets as a couple by yourself in your home. And I love the idea of a married couple going through premarital counseling. I think that your eyes would be open to a lot of things. And even if you did go through premarital counseling, like, I think it would be interesting even for you and me, who did 3 different kinds of premarital counseling, to go through it again now and see what answers have changed. How much have we learned about each other?
And just do a little refresher.
Yeah, exactly. So very cool idea. But in our premarital counseling, we have a whole session that's all about finances, because this is such a hot button issue in marriages. And we understand that. So we knew that one whole session needed to be devoted to finances. And it deals with how you view money, understanding how much the opposite sex's stuff costs. You know, a lot of times we don't understand how much it's going to cost for the guys to have all their tech stuff, video game stuff, or car stuff. And they don't understand how much hair products, makeup, or, you know, fancy high heel boots cost, or whatever. I don't know what you're into, ladies, but each spouse is required also to share with the other how much money they're bringing into the marriage, and, very importantly, how much debt they're bringing into the marriage. And that's not something they share with us. That's something that they share with each other. We had to do some marriage counseling with a couple who got married, and they were having all kinds of problems because the husband did not share with the wife the amount of debt he was bringing into the marriage. And it totally blindsided her after they said I do. And that feels bad.
Well, yeah, because you have undercut the trust that this person has had in you by keeping this secret. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand the logic behind that, because if you're coming in with debt, especially enough debt that you're like embarrassed about, or you don't want to be open and honest about for whatever reason, it's like you're not going to pay that off secretly.
No.
So eventually they are going to find out, like if you go to buy a house or whatever else, like it comes up. And so, you know, it set back their relationship.
For sure.
Because of that trust. But so one of the things we encourage couples to do is to create a budget. Mm-hmm. Now, it's so important to have a budget. You're either going to tell your money where to go, or you're going to try to figure out where it went. One of those two things.
Right.
And so obviously, as a Christian, we want to be good stewards of everything that God gives to us. That includes our finances. And so we want to be proactive and tell our money where to go and what to do, instead of trying to figure out, okay, how come we don't have any money in the bank?
What happened to the money? Ever been there?
So it can be stressful though, especially when the money's tight. I was just having a conversation with a guy recently, and he was telling me that him and his wife, and they've been married for a while, were sitting down to do a budget together. They had done one years ago, and just hadn't been on it for a while. And part of the issue was money was very, very tight, and so it was almost like we don't want to have to deal with how tight money is. And so if we don't make a budget, I don't have to really think about how tight it actually is. But I think the tighter it is, the more important it is to have that budget. And so most of you are probably well aware of what a budget is and how to set one up. But basically what you're going to do, for those of you that are like, I don't even know where to start. Basically, you're just going to start with all your bills. Like, what do I got to pay out every month? And that's literally everything. So that's your house payment or your rent. That is your utilities that include water, electric, all that kind of stuff. That includes things like your Netflix and all that. Literally everything that you spend money on.
Your gas and groceries, which have gone through the roof.
Yeah.
You may need to create a new budget just because of the insane inflation that has happened recently.
But anything you spend money on, that needs to go in the budget. And then, of course, you're going to take the money that comes in, and hopefully those things cover each other, and you've got money that you've budgeted to be able to save and whatever else. Now, if the money coming in doesn't match the money going out, obviously you can understand you've got some issues there, and that's why you're not sure where all your money's going.
And the bottom line is, if the amount of money going out and the amount of money coming in are not matching up, or there's not more coming in than there is going out, then you pretty much have two choices. You can either work more and earn more, which sounds great. It's a great idea, but it's not always easy, because where does that time come from? Where does the work come from? And so on. Or you can cut back and less money goes out. And that means looking through your budget and saying, okay, what can we cut out of our lives to save money? What can go? What's really not important?
Yeah, and this is actually something Lysandra and I have had to go through recently. We've had some expenses with our mortgage that went up by like $500 a month. And so it was like, okay, we either have to get some extra paint jobs and things like that to pay for that, or we've got to figure out what are some things that we can cut. And so we're cutting things out, like going out to eat or shopping at the convenient grocery store.
Yes.
Publix, which is so close. And instead I'm
Thomas.
I'm stopping at Walmart. I'm stopping at Aldi, even though I can't stand those places. And they're not as convenient.
Thomas is a bougie grocery shopper. He wants to feel like it's a special place, I think. I don't know.
No, it's not that. It's really convenient. It is convenient.
It's because it's the closest one.
It's the closest one, and it's just convenient. I can go in there, and I can get what I need, and I can get out fast.
Publix knows that, too, and that's why they have them everywhere on every corner in our town.
Hy-Vee was the same thing in Cedar Rapids.
Hy-Vee
I would choose Hy-Vee because it's literally right there, and I can get in and get out as fast as possible.
But Aldi is where it's at.
So
Aldi is where we try to go now.
Things like not stopping at the gas station every time we're out to get a drink or whatever else, or not stopping at Starbucks for Lysandra.
And for me, this has actually been the most difficult thing in trying to cut back expenses, is not giving my children gifts as much as I used to, like treats, like let's stop for ice cream. Let's stop for coffee. Let's, we're out, we're running errands. Let's get a little treat on the way home or whatever. That was something that I really loved to do with the kids. And it's been hard for them too to understand, okay, we're not doing that anymore. That was something we could do back when we had the extra $500 a month, but now it's gone. So we're not doing that anymore. And you know what? These are first world problems. I totally understand that. But even the kids have had to understand, like, listen, this bill has increased, and unless we increase the amount of a painting that I can do, then we have to give these things up. And they've been great about it, and they understand. But I think even this has been a teaching opportunity for our children to understand when things come up, you can give up things that really aren't important. They feel important, but they're not. And we still have just as much fun as a family without these special things.
And one of the things that we do to kind of reaffirm the direction we're heading and what we're doing is every time we go out somewhere and I don't stop at the gas station to get drinks, I'm like, hey, we just paid ourselves $10.
Yep.
And when we stopped at Walmart for groceries instead of Publix, listen, we just paid ourselves $75.
Yeah. And that feels good.
Yeah. And so it's kind of that motivation to continue on, because it's easy when you're tired to go back into those old habits.
Exactly.
But if you don't have a budget, then you don't really know the direction financially that you're headed in, other than just feeling the constant stress of, I don't have enough. And you may not understand why. So making sure that you do take time, and we encourage you as a couple to sit down and to do the budget together. Too many times we've had issues where a husband or wife does it by themselves and the other person really doesn't have a clue what's going on, which is fine and great if that's how your home works. But here's what happens. A spouse dies and they literally don't have any idea of how to get into the accounts, what to do, what bills need to be paid, how to do it. And so just at least having some conversations and keeping them in the loop, I think, is so important.
Yeah, and I think it might be an interesting exercise for you and your spouse, if you do not already have a budget, to separately make budgets. And these would be just like practice budgets. These aren't the real deal. And then come together and swap budgets. How far off are we? How close are we on the same page? Or is there something that's totally off there? And so that's something that but the goal of the budget is to compromise and come to an agreement.
Yeah.
It's not about one person being right and one person being wrong. The goal is compromise and an agreement on everything, on every line of the budget. And that can be a lot of lines. Right? So you might not agree on how much is fun money, how much is grocery money, how much is gas money. You may want to drive around a lot more than your spouse, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of opportunity for conflict when creating a budget.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about you've got cuts to make. All right, whose stuff are we cutting? Right?
Exactly.
But here's the thing. No one should be bullied when setting up your family budget.
Amen.
This is not about, it's not something you use as a power play or control or whatever else. You're working together, you're on the same team. And a lot of times when you're looking at money being the reason for these divorces, it's because you have somebody who's using it for control or power or whatever else. It can cause a lot of issues. It doesn't have to. Money should be a tool that brings you together to accomplish what you want to accomplish in life.
Okay, so talking about agreeing on the budget, there's more agreeing that needs to take place when talking about money. You have to agree on spending. And this is really tough because everybody has a different idea on what is valuable, right? We all have heard the phrase, one man's trash is another man's treasure. That is so very true. There are things that Thomas wants to spend money on that I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, why would you ever want to spend money on that? What a waste. And I'm sure that you have felt the same way about me. Like maybe one more black dress.
There's already 86
what do you
in
need
the
a million
closet.
Black dresses? Well, they're all very different. So I don't know what it is for you guys, but you need to make sure that you're agreeing on spending. And this means talking, communication. Thomas and I know we shared this in a past episode on money, but when we first got married, we had a dollar amount that the other could not spend without talking it through. Like both parties had to agree on the spend. If it was $5 or more, I think.
Yeah.
For a time, it was $0. Like you could not spend $1 without talking.
Or we'd overdraft. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Thomas couldn't buy a soda at the gas station. That's his thing. Like he always, I don't know. Did your dad do that?
All the time. Yeah.
Dad bought sodas when he went to the gas station.
Yep. All the time.
So that's like, it's in your DNA. You can't help it.
Mountain Dew and a Little Debbie.
Every single time.
Every time.
Yeah. Okay. So my parents did not do that at all. My parents would talk about people.
They wouldn't even get you candy for Easter. You had to go around and find pennies.
Yes, you can find out that if you watch the YouTube video. And before we start our podcast, we always have like a little bit of weird conversation on the YouTube. And all I can say is weird. It's just weird. That YouTube part.
No, it's interesting.
It's okay. See, we have different opinions on a lot of things. But anyway, so agree on what the spending is. And maybe you need to say, you can't spend $20 without talking to me. And, vice versa. Both spouses have to talk about that. But I mean, $20 adds up pretty quick. So
especially now, yeah.
Yeah. So you got to really talk about everything on spending.
Then what you want to talk about is agreeing on saving. And that includes your retirement, your emergency fund, your investments, vacation fund, Christmas, new car, all these things that you're going to be saving for, right? And so figuring out, okay, what are the percentages and the dollar amounts that we should be saving? And it's going to vary depending upon what your bills are and what you got coming in, what you're able to do, and then having we're not giving on this. So if money is going to be cut from somewhere, we're going to cut it from spending on certain things like entertainment or whatever else. We're not cutting our retirement fund.
Right. When our mortgage went up $500 a month, we weren't like, oh, no problem. We'll just stop giving to our retirement fund.
Yeah.
No, we cut back.
Or if it's like, okay, I've got to choose between being able to go on a vacation or getting drinks at the gas station. All right, which one am I going to choose, right?
You're going to choose vacation. I'll tell you that right now.
I think that's what I'm saying.
I know, I'm just teasing.
But, having these are the things, all right, we're going to set these kind of things in quote unquote stone and we'll cut from other areas. Mm-hmm. But you need to have a conversation about what is our saving in these different areas going to look like, mm-hmm. and, get those down on your budget.
One thing that's so cool about the time period that we live in right now is the automatic withdrawal. I mean, it makes these things so easy because automatically your retirement can just come out and go to where it's supposed to go. Automatically, you can have money going into your investment funds or your emergency funds or your Christmas fund or whatever. You can set that up so where you're not really making that decision every month. You make the decision one time and set it up and it just happens. And then you deal with the leftover money and you have to make sure that you're living within that, your budget. But that can really be a help if you can do some sort of an automatic withdrawal and have that going right into your retirement or so on and so forth. Okay, the next thing that you have to agree on is agree on giving. This is an important one, you guys. Let me just say to you, if you are having money problems, you need to make sure that the giving is right. You need to make sure that you're giving. And I'm not saying that if you give to God and you give to others, that you're going to be a millionaire. If that were true, we would be millionaires, and we are not.
We are not.
We are cutting out sodas and Starbucks and other things from our enjoyment fund, right? So I'm not saying that, but when you have giving in place and giving as a priority, everything else will be okay. You will pay your bills. You will be able to make your budget. God has promised that, and And you don't need to worry about the other stuff if you're putting him first, as we hear in Matthew 6:33. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things are going to be added to you.
The food, the clothes, the shelter, the needs.
Yep, which is what we hear previously. Now, that doesn't mean all of your wants, right? Our wants can be completely out of control because we want a lot of stuff. But our needs are going to be met. Ephesians 4:28. I love this verse, and this is the verse that I keep in mind when I'm working. Let the thief no longer steal, but let him labor, doing honest work with his own hands. Why? Why do we do honest work with our own hands? So that he may have something to share with anyone in need. The reason that we work is so we can give. It's not so we can accumulate wealth and become millionaires and go on fabulous vacations. When we get, we can give. And Thomas and I both like percentage-based giving because that means when we get more, we give more. And so it's all about percentage. So I encourage you to sit down together and talk about what percentage of all your income do you want to give. And you can give in multiples of ways. We do believe in giving to the local church, whatever body of believers that you are a part of, and you should be a part of a local body of believers. But give to that local church. Give to missions, give to those in need, sacrificial giving whenever things come up. But for us, it starts with a percentage based.
It's 20% is the lowest.
That's the lowest that Thomas and I will give. Now you can figure out that number, that percentage, with your spouse. And remember the word agree. You're supposed to agree on giving, and that doesn't always happen. And I have had multiple women come to me and say, I'm so frustrated. I want to give more, but I can't because my husband doesn't agree with me. And I'm like, don't give more. Make sure that you are in agreement because it's not worth destroying your marriage over. But keep talking about it. Keep, can we have another conversation on this? Can I give this? So on and so forth. The goal is agreeing on giving, and the goal is to give. That is the goal. So think about that. What's your giving like? And maybe some of the problems that you're having financially is because you aren't giving the way you're supposed to. And if you would just get that step right, we can testify. Thomas and I could sit here. We could take 2 episodes long and just testify to how God has provided for us over years and years and years, because I believe we were faithful in our giving.
And so this is the way that you need to set up your finances. And we're Christians, so this is the things that's important to us. So our giving is the first thing. Like 20% of what we get, that's the very least. That's what we're going to set that aside right away. That's what we're going to give. With the 80% that's left, all right, we figure out what are the bills that need to be paid. Okay, that's going to come out. What are the savings? Those things are going to come out. And the very last thing is spending, like the stuff that we want, right? Mm-hmm. The entertainment, the whatever else. Mm-hmm. And so if anything's going to get cut, we're not cutting from giving. We're not going to cut from our saving. We're not going to cut from the bills. You can't do that. Otherwise they'll take your house away and whatever else. Mm-hmm. So we've got to make cuts in other areas, of the entertainment and the whatever else, but you're setting your priorities in stone and telling your money where to go. And hey, whatever's the most important to you, that's where your money's going to go. And so make sure you're taking time with your spouse to set up that budget. And when you get on the same page financially, it's not going to be an issue that is going to lead to a relationship breaking up. But it's going to take some work. If you've not taken time to do it, it's going to take some work, but it will be well worth it in the long run for your relationship and your financial future. Mm-hmm. So part of the process, though, is understanding who you are financially. Okay. And so what I mean by that is, as a person, you tend to lean one of 2 directions, either a spender or a saver. Mm. So in our family, I'm the spender. Mm-hmm.
Because you're fun.
I am fun. Lysandra is the saver. She's always been the saver. Mm-hmm. And so that comes into play as well. So we've kind of worked financial responsibilities based around strengths and not weaknesses, but differences.
Yes, I agree.
So it's wise for us to have Lysandra leading the way in our finances on a day-to-day operational basis. We still talk through the financial stuff. We still agree on everything.
Yep. I don't make any changes without talking to Thomas first.
But it's wise to do that. So for us, so you've got to figure out a way, okay, financially, what's the best way for our home, our marriage, our family to operate? But starting with understanding who each of you are goes a long way.
Right. Understanding who you are and understanding who your spouse is financially.
Yeah.
Like that helps a lot. I love Dave Ramsey. We used to listen to his radio talk show all the time. I think that the difference now is that the kids are older. When the kids were little, we would listen to it all the time. The kids didn't care. They were doing their own thing. But now they're older and they would probably yell at us if we if we tried to listen to Dave Ramsey talk show in the car. I don't think they would enjoy it.
Half the time they have their headphones on anyway.
Yeah,
so.
that's true. But our girls are going through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University and in their homeschool co-op, and I'm a helper in the class. And so I'm sitting and enjoying the videos again and everything too. But I love how he puts it. He says, opposites attract. There's usually a free spirit and a controlling nerd.
I am a free spirit, you nerd.
I know, I'm totally the nerd. And neither of those things are negative or you should be embarrassed about. Both are good people. It's not like the controlling nerd is the good one and the free spirit is the bad one or vice versa. It's not true at all. I am definitely the controlling nerd.
Yeah.
Like I want to always be like, okay, where's everything going? And Thomas is like, let's have fun.
Everybody pick out your own box of cereal for family day.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's going to cost us $50. Okay, anyway, I'm trying to
chill.
Okay, but the nerd is perceived as controlling by their spouse. Have you ever felt like I was controlling, my dear?
Maybe once or twice a day.
Yes. And to be honest, the controlling nerd is kind of controlling, like it's in the title. The goal is to control all the finances and control the outcomes.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes the free spirit or the spender is perceived as irresponsible.
Have you ever viewed me as irresponsible financially?
Constantly. I not anymore. To be honest, not anymore. You've grown so much. And I do find that fascinating. The longer we're married, the more we grow toward each other.
Yeah.
And I have become a lot more relaxed with money and you have become a lot more responsible with money.
Yes.
And it's a positive thing on both ends. But here's the deal. If you are both controlling nerds, you need to be careful because your kids may be miserable and you may both be miserable and nobody's having any fun. You're not spending the money and having any fun. You're not going on vacation. You're not doing anything fun. So think about that. If both of you are free spirits, you may be in a wild amount of debt.
Yeah.
That's not good either.
Yeah.
It's really, really helpful if there's one and the other, which is what has happened in our marriage.
But if you're not, then that all the more important to set up that budget and have a plan.
Yeah, like because if you have two controlling nerds and there's a budget that says fun money, then those controlling nerds may be thinking like, oh, we must spend this money on something fun.
Yeah.
Let me think, what would be fun? And they go and buy a bunch of books.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But yeah, having the fun budget there. And then, of course, for the free spirit, they just need to be able to have some parameters on what they can spend. And maybe you're sitting there and you're like, I don't really know. Well, and Thomas and I, because we're different, it's been good in our marriage. Now, it's created conflict, of course, because he feels like we should spend more and I feel like we should save more, especially in the beginning. We didn't agree on things. And so it created a lot of conflict. Yes, I understand that. But the fact that we are on opposite sides of the spectrum here has been very positive in our marriage as well, because he has helped me to loosen up and I've helped him to be more responsible. So it really is a good thing to have the opposite. So don't feel like that's a negative thing in your marriage. Just know who you are, know who they are, and work through it gently. But one of the ways to know who you are, if you're saying, I don't know if I'm a saver or a spender, this is what Dave Ramsey said. What do you do with your birthday money?
Yeah.
And I love that. What do you do with your birthday money? A free spirit gets their birthday money and is like, let's party. Or their birthday money is spent before their birthday happens because they're like, I know I'm going to get some birthday cash. It's coming. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on my credit card right now. Whereas the saver gets their birthday money and it goes in a box. And someday I'll use that on something really special. And they may never even use it on anything ever. Can I be honest about my birthday money?
Yeah.
My birthday money goes into our general account, and I have no idea what I use it for.
Yeah, I don't do that.
No, you don't.
Now, I'm going to kick back here a little bit because I am a spender, but when it comes to things like my birthday money or whatever else, I'll put that aside until there is something I want to spend it on.
Yeah, and why do you do that, though? Because you know you can't get it unless you do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I won't let him spend, I won't let him get a big purchase unless he's like, look, I have the cash. It's my birthday money. Then I'm like, okay, because I'm a controlling nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's just say you are totally different and you just can't seem to agree on anything financial.
Man, that's hard.
And there are some situations like that. You know, you just argue every time money is brought up. So what do we do in this situation? And here's what you need to do. This is what I would tell people if you're having, like, just relationally, we're having an argument, we got something we can't work through. I would say, hey, go to a marriage counselor, somebody that you can sit down and talk things through. And here's what you're going to do financially, is you're going to talk to your financial person. You say, but that could cost us some money. Well, it's worth the investment in your relationship, and it's worth the investment in your financial future. So
you will come out ahead in the end.
You're going to sit down and you're just going to talk to your financial person, whoever it may be. And if you say, well, I don't know anybody, you know, ask people in your life that you trust. You know, do your parents have a financial person? Who does your pastor use, or somebody, you know, that you trust? Who's their financial person? Like we have people in our church that, hey, they are financial minds and it's what they do for a living. And so when people come and say, hey, financially, who should I talk to? I've got a couple names that I just recommend right away. Hey, go talk to these people, and you sit down and you share everything. You open up your budget and your expenses and all this stuff and the plans and the goals and everything else financially that you'd like to do. And they'll help walk you through the different steps that you can be taking. And so it's getting a third party. It's no longer about what he says and what she says and what they want, and he just keeps controlling, or she just keeps on controlling and he keeps spending, or whatever else. No, this is, you've laid it out in front of a professional that this is what they do for a living. They have the financial expertise and experience and mind for it, and they'll tell you, okay, this is how you walk through your budget. This is what you should be doing with your money. This is how to set up your retirement and all these kind of things. And so having that person, that's what I would recommend, is going to that financial person, just as you would if you were arguing about some relational issue. You would go to a counselor. Hopefully, if the marriage is important enough to you, you're going to go to a counselor and work and talk things through. Financially, the same thing, except for instead of a relationship expert, you're going to a financial expert who can really help you walk through that.
And what we found with so many couples is a lot of times the only thing that the couple really needs is a mediator. They just need a third party to help mediate. So maybe you have this hang up with the word counseling. Don't think of it as a counselor. It's a mediator. They're just helping each of you to understand and see the other's point of view. And hopefully you can come to an agreement with that person's help.
And you may need to have your counselor in the meeting with your financial advisor. So you may have to get both together. Yeah.
Now, if your spouse doesn't want to go to this, or maybe you're listening right now and you're like, I do not want to go to a financial counselor, mediator, whatever. Probably the reason that the person in the marriage doesn't want to go is because they know they're going to be told to change and they don't want to. That's a good probability.
Yeah.
Because when you go, you're going to really become vulnerable. You're opening yourself up to someone saying, that's not a good idea. You really need to stop doing that. And how many of us like to hear that? No, never. We never want to hear that. So really, if one of you doesn't want to go, that's the reason. And it probably means you need to get some things changing. You need to start using a little more self-control with things, or maybe it's you need to lighten up a little bit. But your financial mediator can help you with that. And lastly, we want to close out with this. Set some financial goals as a family. And here again, you need to agree on this. Maybe one of you, your financial goal is to become a millionaire before death. And maybe the other person says, my financial goal is to fund an orphanage in Nepal for 1 year. Those are vastly different goals.
Oh, yeah.
But what you need to do is come together and figure out a goal that you can agree on. And what is your actual financial goals? You should have goals for retirement and goals for saving. And maybe you have goals for like what you want to purchase in the future and so on and so forth. And of course, goals for giving. So what are the actual goals? What would you eventually like to see in your financial future? You need to be talking about that and then setting up a process to make that happen in the end. You have to set that up.
If you don't know where you want to go, then you can never get there.
Exactly. So financial goals are good, and it should be as a family, not anybody one or the other. Remember, no financial bullies. We don't want any financial bullying. When that happens, it can absolutely lead to divorce. So we hope that this information has been helpful to you in your financial life. And we hope that maybe talking through some of these things will help prevent divorce in our marriages.
So family meeting tonight, we do want you to sit down together as a couple and just talk about what are our financial goals. And let each of you kind of get your goals out there and talk about it and just dream, hey, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to be financially set enough to help my kids get a good start, and I want to be able to travel and love on my grandkids, spoil my grandkids without having to worry about how much money is in the bank account or whatever else. Like, if that's your financial goal, great. All right, what's your financial goal then? And then once you've done that, it's time to set up the budget, right? Work through the budget. Know where you want to go, and your budget is your plan to get there. Mm-hmm. That's the steps you're going to take to get there. And so if your goal is to become a millionaire, then you're going to have to set your budget up to go down that road. And that means you're going to have to cut back on some of the things that aren't really a priority to help you get to where you want to go. And it can be a stressful time. So set aside a time where it's going to be, everything's going to be chill. Maybe put on some relaxing music in the background. Because finances can be a hot topic. Mm-hmm. But taking the time to know where you want to go financially and setting up a plan to get there is going to help strengthen your relationship. It's going to help strengthen your marriage and your financial future. And so it could be a difficult family meeting tonight, but if you're willing to go through the process, it'll be a beneficial family meeting tonight.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we have our third and final discussion on divorce and its statistics. Next week, we're going to look at one of the leading causes for divorce in our country, and that is infidelity. And that may be something that has touched your marriage, or maybe someone that you know closely has gone through this. Either way, I think that this is very applicable to every single marriage. One of the things that the Bible says is if you think that you will never fall, take heed, because you probably will. You very well could. Any of us could end up doing this. None of us are above any sin or failure. It can hit any of us. So we need to really talk about this and make some steps to prevent it.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
Thanks for joining us today, you guys. Hopefully you've learned some things about finances. Some positive information has gone out, I hope. Not everything's negative, maybe.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can feel like such a downer.
And I just want to say, like, put it in your budget to get your kids some Easter candy. Don't just throw a couple of pennies around the house and say, have fun, kids. Like plan for it. Budget it out. You do not want your kids to look back when they are 39 years old and say, the only thing we did for Easter was I found a couple of dimes.
Yeah, because if they do say that, they're going to be one of the happiest people in the world.
They will not. So have those financial conversations, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.